Today we're talking about working for free. Is it something you should do or something you should steer clear of? Stay tuned to find out. All right, so I've got this awesome project. All right, there's some really cool names attached to it. I've got a distribution in place. I've got some people interested. We're gonna put it out to all the film festivals. We've got somebody that's gonna put it on DVD for us. We're gonna go national. This is gonna be something that's gonna be in theaters. We've got some awesome actors, and we'd really like you to be a part of it. You can film the whole thing. You can use your gear. We'll give you all the credit. We'll feed you, and we'll make sure that you get all of the credit that you need from it. You'll get on IMDb. You'll get publicity. And you'll be everywhere, and that's what you're going to get for being part of this film. You ever heard that before? I know I have, and if you've heard that before, you probably know the struggle of should I work for free or for credit and food, or whether you should steer clear of that. Now I'm here to give you my opinion on this. This is my opinion only. There's a lot of different views on this, but in my opinion, I don't think you should ever give away your services for free or for credit. Credit to me is a bunch of crap, because in all honesty, unless you're working on a big budget Hollywood movie, the credit is not going to mean anything. And for your reel, that's another thing that they'll say is you can use this footage for your reel. If you're really starting out and you're a kid or a teenager, maybe you can do some narrative stuff for a reel, and that might help you. But the reality of it is you have skill if you've been honing your skills and working on it, and you have equipment that costs you money. You should be getting something from everything you do with that equipment and with the skill that you have, even if you're just starting out. Before I get into giving you some ideas of how you can get work not for free and actually get paid for what you're doing, let me tell you about a trap I fell into. I don't do a lot of narrative stuff. I love narrative stuff, and I do a lot of stuff for Boy Meets Film, YouTube, and some fun projects like that, but the majority of what I do is corporate, commercial, or documentary style filmmaking. Now, I wanted to be a narrative film so badly a few years ago that I found a project that was looking for a director and cinematographer built into one, and they were going to give credit, and there was a whole bunch of awesome stuff to come with it. They already had posters and shirts, and they put my name on everything because I jumped into the project, and the project went nowhere. In fact, not only did it go nowhere, it actually negatively affected everyone involved with it, because the people that were producing it, or the individuals in charge of producing the movie, ended up taking over and trying to direct it from me. They controlled every aspect of what was going on in a negative fashion. It was like being in a really bad job where you're being screamed at all the time and you just want to quit. Well, that's how everyone felt on the film set. In fact, almost the entire crew left. Crew, cast, everyone didn't want anything to do with it, and it was a complete and utter waste of time. And that is the epitome, not always, there's been other projects that I've helped out with that's been a lot of fun, but the epitome, and most of the time what you're going to get for working for free is a lot of the time a negative environment. That's been my experience, at least. People that are serious about filmmaking know that you have worth. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't work for something besides monetary gain, but you should always have some sort of worth in what you're doing. A lot of people will promise you money on the back end or a percentage of the income, but that's not guaranteed. I think, in my opinion, you should have a guaranteed trade-off of some sort of, whether it's money or goods or services that you trade back and forth in order to actually make it worth your time. When I first started off doing video production in the area that I work in, when I first started my company and I wanted to get out there, what I did is I actually went to local companies and I dropped my fee by a lot because I wanted to get out there and let people see what we were able to do. Now, people understand, especially if you're in the commercial filmmaking world, people understand the value of what you do, or if they don't, they at least understand that you should be paid for what you do. A lot of people don't like to pay the amount that we need to charge to really make a living, but if you're first starting out or if you're a teenager, going into a company and cold calling or cold emailing or just stopping by and saying, you know, this is my business card, I'm trying to expand in this area, this is what I'll do for you at this price, this is a discounted price. I actually cut my price by over 75% for a couple different people just to try to build up my business. And you know what happened from that? I did 3 jobs at 75% approximately discount. After that, those 3 videos I used to push out to all my other potential clients and people that I was looking to be hired by. Because of those initial 2, I did 3, but my initial 2 has gotten me almost all of my work since then, based on especially one of them. One we did was a documentary style kind of corporate video for a bakery. And it was an awesome story, and that video alone has gotten me more work than any of my other content, and I did that at an extremely discounted rate. Number one, because I wanted to be able to work on awesome content, and number two, because I wanted to expand. And now I got paid for that, and because I owned my equipment and I was a one-man band, I still made money on it. But I didn't make an exuberant amount of money based on that one video. But having done that, it allowed me to move forward on everything else in the company. So what I'm saying is that find value in yourself and find value in the project that you're working on. Even if you're not getting paid monetarily, I've done projects for people just to help out, but they were able to pay me through, food. If they were a restaurant, they gave me gift cards because that doesn't cost them as much as paying monetarily, or at least they don't view it as that. I've traded for services and goods, marketing. I've done stuff for companies and we've traded off different things like that. I mean, find value. Don't do it for free. If someone comes to you and says, can you help us out and do this for absolutely nothing, and it'll add to your reel, then counter that with, well, I can do that, and yes, it would be good for my reel, but can we agree on this? Because you should always find value in the skills and the services that you provide. If you're serious about filmmaking and serious about starting a career in this one way or the other, you should always make something off of what you're doing, because otherwise it cheapens what you're doing, and people will look at you and just assume that you don't know what you're talking about. So, should you work for free? Under certain circumstances, maybe. If you're asked by a friend because they're doing a short film or they're doing some sort of project, and it's a passion project that you really want to do, because I've done this and it's been enjoyable on passion projects, that's totally different. But if somebody comes over to you, or you see an ad on Craigslist, especially, for instance, or any of those other places that people try to scrounge up talented people for absolutely nothing, if you see that, and they're offering, they're going to get you a pizza, which, okay, pizza, $10 for pizza, feeds a few people. That's not really being paid at all. Food, in my opinion, should not be counted. That should be additional on top of what you're already doing. A lot of times when I do work for people, nowadays I do work for people and they pay me for what I'm doing. But before, if I was doing work for instance, for the bakery, they paid me the lower rate, but they also gave me free desserts and stuff based on that, because it was another part of the trade. So don't count food, in my opinion, as payment, because people need to eat. It's just a basic thing, and it would be rude not to have someone pay for it if you're on set during lunchtime. It's not part of an income when you're on a regular film set. Even if you're PAing on a film set, they feed you, and that does not come out of your paycheck, and it's not counted as part of your day rate, because it's food, and that's just a basic necessity. So don't count food unless you're working for like a restaurant and they're like, here, let's give you, a couple $100 gift card on top of the small fee we're paying you. That'll really help sell the whole thing for you. Or you can even pitch that if it's a restaurant you really like. I've done that before. So I don't think you should count food as that. Gas, I wouldn't count as that, because most instances, or a lot of instances that I've worked, either you put the gas into your payment, you count that as part of your income, or it's paid separately depending on who you're shooting for, so I wouldn't count that. And I wouldn't count credit, because credit doesn't mean anything. Who cares who you worked for? Unless you're working on the next Steven Spielberg movie and you're holding the camera for Steven Spielberg yourself, I'm not really sure that any kind of credit is going to matter. Now, I say that, it's different in the narrative world. I'm not a huge part of the narrative world right now, because I've stepped back from that to be able to tell other stories, because that's my favorite thing to do, is just tell people's stories. But in the narrative world, it is slightly different, but I still think that you should not give away the services that you have just to hope that somebody picks you up. I think that if you're passionate about a project, then you should all share equally in the fruits of it. Just be careful not to overextend yourself. The project that I mentioned before, I ended up being asked to do way more than what I should have been asked to do, and it was a huge waste of time. I spent my own money on things, and it just ended up being a whole mess. So be very careful in narrative projects. If you're looking to get into narrative, I think you're better off doing stuff yourself and creating projects yourself and having friends help you, or working with friends to do it, than jumping in on these pop-up overnight people that think that they've got some money that they can put into a short film, and it's going to end up in the Cannes Film Festival, and everyone's going to be famous. I'm afraid of people doing that, because Yes, sometimes it works, but probably 99% of the time it's not going to go anywhere. So I hope that answers some questions. If you can't tell, I'm not a big fan of working for free, and after the experience that I had, I would never do that. I would always hope to get something at least from the production that I'm working on. Like I said, you have value in the knowledge that you have. Even if you're just starting out, you still have value in your knowledge. Your equipment has value. You paid money for that, so don't ever let someone use that equipment for nothing. And your time matters, so that should be paid for as well. So you have experience, equipment, time. The biggest things that matter when it comes to doing work for film or for commercial or whatever you're doing. Make sure in some form or fashion you are paid for your equipment, your time, and for your knowledge, and you'll be happy and you'll be a lot better off because you'll actually be able to build a career in what you're doing. Thank you for watching this episode of Boy Meets Film. Hopefully that made a whole bunch of sense. I went on kind of a ramble there. We're actually starting a podcast, and we hope to be releasing it tomorrow. And the goal behind the podcast, the Boy Meets Film podcast, is to expound on what we've talked about on some of our episodes and hopefully get some cool interviews and stuff going on. I've reached out to a few people and had some interest. So check out the page that I'm going to link to in the description below that you can, tomorrow we'll be releasing the first episode about working for free, and I'm probably going to be rambling on even more about that and sharing some stories beyond in that podcast. So come back for that tomorrow, and come back Thursday for another episode as well. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me rambling, please give us a subscribe as well, because we try to release really awesome content that helps you tell better stories. Thanks again for watching, and have a great week.